Okay, when in doubt, write about tone and mood. In order to do this, the first thing we need is we have to know the definitions of tone and mood. Get these at literarydevices.net, or you can copy them down from this video. Once we have the definitions and functions, what we want to do is create the sentence templates. When you're taking the AP test, you're allowed to have your notes next to you. If you have these templates next to you, you'll be able to use them in your essay. If you don't have them, good luck. When we practice, you have to think. What is it that I want to say about tone and mood? When I say these things, does it answer the question? Let's take a look at an examples and see how we're going to do this. Now, as I had said, you need to know the definition and function. So here's the definition and function of tone from literarydevices.net. Tone is the attitude of a writer towards a subject or an audience. Tone is conveyed through the choice of words, that's diction, or the viewpoint of a writer on a particular subject. Every written piece comprises a central theme or subject matter. The matter in which a writer approaches this theme and subject is the tone. Tone can be positive, neutral, negative, formal, informal, serious, comic, sarcastic, sad, cheerful. These are the words on the charts that I had on the wall that we can use to describe the author's tone. The words he uses, the diction he uses in these words represent a negative tone, and then explain why. Tone decides how the reader reads a literary piece and how they should feel while they're reading it. That's the mood. In addition, tone lends shape and life to a piece of literature because it creates mood. You need to know this definition. You need to know the key words in it. For the next step, let's take a look. Now, once we have the definition and the function written down, we want to highlight, underline, write out, however you want to do it, the key words within the definition and function, like I did right here. Attitude towards, conveyed through choice of words, viewpoint, theme, subject matter, positive, neutral, negative, etc., and creates the mood. So once you have the definition and function, look for the key words. Now we're going to go ahead and make our sentence templates. Now these are sentence templates that I created from the definition of tone and the function. I looked at the key words. When you're writing your essays, this should be right next to you. If you're going to write about tone, these are the sentence templates you should have. You plug and play, they're going to work well. So the attitude of the author towards the theme is conveyed through his choice of words, and then you list the words. The author's approach to the theme of the work, in the work, and you put a quote, is revealed through the tone he or she creates with the words. The tone of the words, make a list, used by the author creates a positive, neutral, negative tone. The blank tone that the author creates in the work, and a quote, creates a blank mood for the reader. Now these, I can use these. They're right, if they're right next to me on my paper, my pad, I can use them when I go to write. They're generic. I can just plug and play. If you don't have these from all the literary terms we'll be working with, then you need to do it right now. Let's continue. All right, let's take a look at an example. I'm going to create sentences from the definition and function, the key ideas, and the sentence templates that I created. But I have to think first. So, observe the tone of a short story, The School, by Donald Barthelme. And the trees all died. They were orange trees. I don't know why they died. They just died. Something wrong with the soil possibly, or maybe the stuff we got from the nursery wasn't the best. We complained about it. So we've got 30 kids there. Each kid has his or her own little tree to plant. and we've got all these 30 dead trees. All these kids looking at these little brown sticks. It was depressing. Now, the first thing you want to do, as we had said before, is identify the key words within the passage. Starting off with the nouns. What's the subject matter? In this case, trees. What adjectives are used? Because remember, we're looking at the words. That's the tone, the diction that the author uses creates the tone. Orange trees, little tree, dead trees, little brown stick, depressing. What verbs are being used? Died, complained. What phrases stand out as I read this? Something wrong, wasn't the best, 30 kids had little tree, 30 dead trees. When you're reading, you have to think. Identify the nouns, that's your subject matter. Identify the adjectives that describe those nouns. That's the diction, which will give you the tone. What verbs are being used? Again, diction and tone. What phrases, imagery, stand out? So now that I've identified these, I'm ready for the next step. All right, now here's where the thinking part comes in. So I see these adjectives that are being used. Dead, depressing. This sets a gloomy tone in the passage. Now, we have the tree, which signifies life, and an unexpected death from an unknown cause. So we have the juxtaposition of these ideas, life, tree, dead. And it gives an unhappy, pessimistic tone. So now I'm going to use my technique, who, what, where, when, why, and how. This works every time. If you don't use it, it works every time. Who? Donald Barthelme. What? Creates a gloomy tone. Where? The short story, The School. When? He describes the trees. Why? To create a mood for the reader. How? His choice of words. If you do this, and we've seen before it now, I just make sentences out of this. So, in the short story, The School, Donald Barthelme creates a gloomy tone through his description of the trees. That sentence was created just from the answers to my question. The gloomy tone creates a depressing mood for the reader. Okay? The tone creates the mood. Now I have to give the example. His use of the adjective dead and depressing sets this tone. Now, a lot of people have been just ending their comment right there. That's not good enough. Why? How? You have to answer these questions. That makes good commentary. It is the juxtaposition of the tree as a symbol of life with these adjectives. The reader visualizes the tree that is life with the ideal of death overtaking them. This is what creates the unhappy and pessimistic mood. So the green sentence, if I left my commentary just like that, it's no good. I have to answer why or how. And that's what my purple sentences do. Not sentence. Sentences. More than one. Let's continue. Okay, let's take a look at another example. This comes from Robert Frost's poem, The Road Not Taken, which we had studied earlier in the year. And the tone that he uses gives us an insight on what he's trying to present. This is the end of the poem. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So, when we look at the words that Frost uses here, Frost tells us about his past with a sigh. This gives the above line an unhappy tone. The tone leads us into thinking that the speaker in the poem has had to make a difficult choice. That first word tone sets the ideas on how the reader is going to perceive it, the mood for the rest of the poem. So what does the word sigh mean? It's good to have a good vocabulary or to look it up. Emit a long, deep, audible breath expressing sadness, relief, tiredness, or a similar feeling. So by the definition of the word sigh, that lets me know that the diction of that word, the tone of that word, sets the mood for the rest of the stanza. The word used by Frost sets the tone for the following lines. What attitude is presented through this word, and how does it affect the interpretation of the following lines? This is that part where we think. What is the author doing with this word? Why is it there? It's not by accident. How does the word affect the interpretation of ages and ages hence? If the two roads represent a choice, how do the two previous lines affect the interpretation? What inference can be made about the last line has made all the difference. Thinking, asking questions, who, what, where, when, why, and how. All right, now I'm ready to compose my SEC paragraph. I'm going to use who, what, where, when, why, and how. If I use it, do you think you should use it? If I'm sitting and writing and I got 3 seconds where nothing's coming, that's what I do. Who? Robert Frost. What? Uses words that create an unhappy, forlorn tone. Where? In his poem, The Road Not Taken. When? The first line of the selection, sigh, ages and ages hence. Set the tone of the subsequent lines and create an uncertain mood through the tone taken. Now, by using this technique, I have all the information I need to make a good paragraph. Let's begin. In his poem, Road Not Taken, Robert Frost uses diction that creates a forlorn and uncertain tone. Diction is the words. The choice is the author's attitude towards the writing, which is tone. The word in the first line of the quote, sigh, denotes a long, deep breath expressing Frost's attitude towards the subsequent line. In addition, transitional phrase, the next line, ages and ages hence, adds to the feeling of forlornness. This tone creates an uncertain mood for the reader. All right. Some people would stop right there. They say, there's my commentary. It's not. It doesn't answer how or why. Let's continue. With the inference that the fork in the road represents a choice in life, the reader must wonder as to the outcome of said choice. As a result, the conclusion to be made concerning the theme developed is that choices have consequences and the result is uncertain. There's my comment, SEC. Now I'm going to do the same thing with mood. LiteraryDevices.net. What is the definition and function of mood? In literature, mood is a literary element that evokes certain feelings or vibes in readers through words and descriptions. Tone, diction, voice, style, point of view. Usually mood is referred to as the atmosphere of a literary piece, as it creates an emotional setting that surrounds the readers. Mood is developed in a literary piece through various methods including setting, theme, tone, and diction. Mood evokes various emotional responses in readers and thus ensures their emotional attachment to the literary piece they read. Once the readers are emotionally stirred, they fully comprehend the message that the writer tries to convey to them. That's the definition and function. Next step. Now that I have the definition and function, I want to identify the key words within the definition and function, extract them, and I'm going to use them to create my sentence templates. So, function, definition, evokes feelings in the reader through diction, description, style, atmosphere, emotional setting, response, attachment. Emotionally stirred, comprehend the message. As with anything, you got to think. These are the key words. I extracted them from the definition and function. I'm going to use those ideas to create my sentence templates. Sentence templates. Are you writing these sentences down? Are they on a piece of paper that you can look at? If you're not, it's a mistake. The reason I'm showing you this is so that you do it. So here we have, the mood of blank evokes a feeling of blank in the reader. The diction and style of blank creates a blank atmosphere. The blank mood created by blank within the quotes, and you have a quote, creates an emotional setting that bonds the reader to the text. Once the emotions of the reader are stirred through the tone, the mood, whatever the mood is, a better understanding of the theme evolves. I can use these generic sentences within any essay I write, as long as they're talking about mood. I have these ready to go. Do you? Next. Let's look at an example. Charles Dickens creates a calm, peaceful mood in his novel, Pickwick Papers. Here's the quote. The river, reflecting the clear blue of the sky, glistened and sparkled as it flowed noiselessly on. As we had done in our last example, what are the nouns that are used? What is the subject matter? River and sky. What about the verbs? Reflecting, glistened, sparkled, flowed. What adjective or adverbs? Clear blue, noiselessly. These are the words, the diction, that the author uses, his tone, to create a mood for the reader. You have to think. Don't just write anything down. Purpose what your sentences are going to do, the information that they're going to present. Think. You have to think. So I ask questions. What inferences can be made? Well, I think to myself, we have a river and a sky. Those are the nouns. The water is described with words that are pleasant, glisten, sparkled, flow. It can be assumed that the water is calm and peaceful since the sky is reflecting upon it. If I picture myself on the bank of this river on a beautiful summer day, I feel calm and relaxed. The mood is peaceful because of the diction of the author's tone. So make my sentences. Who? Charles Dickens. Dickens. What? Creates a pleasant mood. Where? Pickwick Papers. Description of the river. When? The diction used. How? The description. I get my paragraph. In his novel, The Pickwick Papers, Charles Dickens creates a calm and pleasant mood when he writes, the river reflecting the clear blue sky glistened and sparkled as it flowed noiselessly on. The tone of the diction creates an emotional setting in which the reader is able to bond. Once the emotions of the reader have been stirred and better understanding of the theme evolves. Now my comment here isn't that long because I don't have much room to put it together. But if I were to write an essay, it would be a lot longer. Let's continue. All right, now it's going to be your turn. When in doubt, write about tone and mood. Okay. You have to think. What is the author trying to do? What words are you using? That's the tone. How does it create an atmosphere or mood for the reader? Let's take a look at Edgar Allan Poe, The Telltale Heart. It was a low, dull, and quick sound, much such a sound as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for breath, and yet the officers heard it not. I talked more quickly, more vehemently, but the noise steadily increased. I arose and argued about trifles in a high key and with violent gesticulations, but the noise steadily increased. Why would they not be gone? I paced the floor to and fro with heavy strides, as if excited to fury by the observations of the men, but the noise steadily increased. Oh God, what could I do? I foamed, I raved, I swore, and I swung the chair upon which I had been sitting, and grated it upon the boards, but the noise arose over all, and continually increased. It grew louder, louder, louder. All right, now I'm going to ask myself questions, as we've done in the previous examples. What nouns? What are they doing to depict the main idea? What are the verbs used with these nouns? Can the word describe the tone of the nouns and verbs? What adjective or adverbs are used to modify the nouns and verbs? Divide the sentences. Look at each one and determine the sequence of ideas presented. What imagery is used and how does the tone create the mood? These are questions that you ask as you're reading something because you're going to write about it. So I start off, okay, it's got a sound. It's not a loud sound because it's like the sound on a watching cotton. Okay, so it starts muffled. Then we have gasped. So muffled, gasped. The tone changes. It intensifies. Then he talked quickly, vehemently. The noise increased. So we're getting a increased intent. I arose. So the guy was sitting down. Now he's standing up. Argued. High key. Violent gesticulations. Noise increased. Why would they not be going? So now he's sitting, he's up, he's pacing the floor, heavy strides, as if excited to fury by the observation. The noise increased. So we see an increase. The words that the author uses, the tone, the diction, match this increase. Oh God, what could I do? Foamed, raved, swore, swung. And the noise got louder and louder. So if we look at the nouns, we're talking about a noise, sound. The sound increases all the way louder, louder. Then the verbs that the author uses go along with that idea and start off sitting, then standing, then pacing. That's the tone. And what mood does it create for the reader? This is your assignment. Write an extended paragraph on this Edgar Allan Poe, the Telltale Heart expert. That's good luck. All right, let's conclude this up. Read the definition and function. Determine the words or the ideas, the main ideas. Create your sentence templates. Whatever you're reading, analyze the words and phrase in the text. Identify the word or phrase that is an inference of the tone and the author is presenting towards the work. Use who, what, where, when, why, and how technique to develop your ideas in the sentences. Commentary should be the majority of your essay. If you give me an extended paragraph that has one sentence for commentary, it's not a passing grade. 2, it better be really good. More than 2. Okay. If you're not sure, go back and look at the video I created on creating commentary. Look at the handout that goes along with this. Complete this assignment.